Imagine digging into the past. Yeah. And unearthing something really unexpected. Not just, what people ate, but what they chose to sacrifice. And why that difference tells us so much about their world.
That distinction is key, isn't it?
Absolutely. So today, we're taking a deep dive into an archaeological discovery from the Bronze Age in ancient Israel.
And the focus is surprising, perhaps.
Right. The humble donkey. New research is kind of flipping our understanding, showing they weren't just work animals.
No, vital for daily life and trade, of course, but also something more, a ritual significance.
Exactly. And our insights are coming straight from a really fascinating study in PLOS ONE and its detailed companion article.
Yes, the one titled An Isotopic Perspective on Equid Selection in Cult at Tel Gath, Israel. Quite a mouthful, but packed with detail.
It really is. So this deep dive, it's your shortcut, really, to understanding this complex mix of ancient trade, ritual, social value, all through the lens of the donkey.
We'll pull out the main findings, the sort of aha moments from the research.
Let's get you up to speed on the facts and what they might mean. Okay, so where does this story even begin?
Well, we need to set the scene. We're talking about Tel Gath.
Right, Gath. A major city back in the early Bronze Age 3. So that's roughly, 2900 to maybe 2600 BCE?
Yeah, around that time frame. And it's in what's now central Israel. Strategically placed, too.
How so?
About 20 kilometers from the Mediterranean coast, right along major transport routes. Really central.
And it wasn't just some small town, right?
Oh, no. During this early Bronze Age 3 period, it was genuinely urban. Covered about 24 hectares.
Wow, that's pretty big for the time.
It is. Extensive fortifications, too. And the archaeology there, it shows clear signs of social hierarchy, bureaucracy.
So complex society.
Definitely. And strong economic connections, reaching out broadly, including, crucially, Egypt.
Okay, so a big, important, connected city. And then the archaeologists find something unusual.
Extremely unusual, yes. Under the floors of houses.
Not palaces, but regular homes. In a non-elite neighborhood, the study says.
Exactly. They found 4 complete donkey skeletons.
Just under the floorboards, so to speak.
Pretty much. But these weren't just casually dumped there. Not at all.
How could they tell?
Well, first, the donkeys themselves. They were young females, prime of their life.
Okay.
And their placement was meticulous. Legs bound, heads facing east. One was even decapitated, but its head was carefully placed back onto its abdomen.
Whoa! That doesn't sound like throwing out the trash.
Not in the slightest. It screams ritual, sacrifice. Specifically, they look like foundation deposits. Meaning they were likely placed there intentionally just before new walls or floors went in, part of a building ritual during urban renewal.
And this is during a specific time?
Yes, in what archaeologists call stratum E5C, a particular layer representing a phase of construction.
Okay. And you mentioned this contrast with other animal remains.
Right. They also found a jawbone from another donkey.
Just a jawbone.
Yes, and this one was just discarded. Mixed in with other food waste, like sheep and goat bones. Clearly eaten, not ritually buried.
So a really stark difference in how these animals were treated. Some revered, one just food.
Precisely. Which leads to the big questions, right? Why the difference? Where did these special donkeys come from?
Yeah, how do you even figure that out from bones that are thousands of years old?
What's the scientific magic here?
Hey, well, it's not magic, but it's very clever science. It's called multi-isotope analysis. They look at the teeth.
Isotopes in the teeth.
Yeah. Things like carbon, oxygen, strontium. Tooth enamel forms early in life and doesn't change much after that.
Ah, so it's like a little time capsule of the animal's youth.
Exactly. It locks in chemical signatures from the food and water the animal consumed back then. It tells you about its diet, its environment, even its mobility.
Okay, so what do the isotopes actually reveal? This is the detective work part.
Right. So let's take the 4 sacrificed donkeys. First, they labeled them EQ1 to EQ4.
Okay.
Their carbon isotopes showed they ate mostly C4 plants.
C4 plants? What does that mean? Think grasses that thrive in hotter, drier climates. Very typical of, say, the Nile Valley in Egypt. Not so dominant locally around Gath.
Interesting. Egypt.
What else? The oxygen isotopes in their teeth matched values found in ancient human remains from the Nile Valley.
A match.
A good match. And even more, they showed these little negative pulses.
Negative pulses?
Yeah, tiny fluctuations in the isotope levels consistent with the seasonal flooding patterns of the Blue Nile.
Wow, that's incredibly specific. Like a fingerprint of the Nile itself.
It really is. And strontium isotopes, while the background data for Egypt isn't perfect, they didn't contradict an Egyptian origin either.
So putting it all together.
The evidence points very, very strongly to these 4 sacrificed donkeys being born and raised in Egypt.
Born and raised in Egypt, then brought to Gath. Amazing.
Now compare that to the other donkey, EQ21, the jawbone found in the food waste.
The local one.
Well, that's what the isotopes confirmed. Its carbon signature showed mostly C3 plants, typical of the local Gath environment. And its oxygen and strontium values also matched the local signatures around Gath.
So definitely a local donkey.
No question. Born, raised, and eaten locally.
You mentioned a goat, too.
Yes. Good point. They did find one goat that also showed Egyptian isotopic signatures.
So another import from Egypt. Was it sacrificed?
No, that's the interesting part. It was clearly butchered and eaten, just like the local donkey jawbone.
So even among the Egyptian imports, the donkeys got special treatment.
It really underscores that these specific donkeys were selected for something different, something ritualistic.
This is incredible. So Egyptian donkeys brought all the way to Gath, treated with reverence, buried under homes, while local donkeys and even other Egyptian animals like that goat end up as dinner.
It paints a fascinating picture, doesn't it?
It really does. So what does this tell us about, the society, the trade, the beliefs? Why sacrifice an Egyptian donkey?
Well, the researchers argue pretty compellingly that the origin was crucial. The isotopic evidence shows that being an Egyptian import was a key factor in selecting an animal for sacrifice.
So its foreignness gave it value.
Exactly. Its exotic status. That, plus being young and female, seemed to be the criteria. The study literally says it is the Egyptian import status that is one of the key criteria.
It's like the value wasn't just inherent in the animal itself, but in where it came from and the effort involved in getting it there.
Precisely. It suggests these Egyptian donkeys had a much higher social value than local ones.
And not just for the super rich, right? You said these were found in a non-elite or maybe middle-class neighborhood.
That's another really surprising element. These weren't happening in palaces or temples, but in ordinary domestic contexts.
So regular households, or at least somewhat well-off ones, were participating in these rituals involving expensive imported animals.
Yes, which connects directly to the bigger picture of trade and connection.
How's that?
Well, it highlights just how important that long-distance trade with Egypt was. Donkeys weren't just beasts of burden facilitating trade, they were valuable commodities in that trade.
Traded goods themselves.
Right. And sacrificing one wasn't just, giving up an animal. It was a statement, a socially and ritually charged act, as the paper puts it.
Charged with what meaning?
Probably multiple layers. Maybe displaying wealth, sure, but also demonstrating connections, economic, social, maybe even political ties to powerful Egypt.
So burying an Egyptian donkey under your house was a way to signal your status and your links to this important foreign power.
That seems to be the implication. It made the Egyptian donkey an exotic and special animal worthy of the specific foundational ritual use.
Did they live in Gath for long before being sacrificed, or were they brought specifically for this purpose?
That's another interesting wrinkle. One of the sacrificed donkeys, EQ1, actually showed isotopic signs of having lived at Gath for several months before its death.
Oh, so it wasn't immediate.
Apparently not for that one. The isotopes suggest it was kept penned and fed local fodder for a while.
So they brought it from Egypt, kept it, fed it local food, maybe treating it differently from other livestock.
It certainly suggests that. Perhaps it was like a valued possession, kept safe until the time was right for the ritual. It wasn't just treated like standard pack animals or local stock.
Wow, the level of detail they can pull from those teeth is just mind-blowing.
It really is. It shows how scientific analysis, applied carefully, can illuminate these ancient practices.
What stands out most to you about this whole discovery?
For me, it's how it elevates our understanding beyond just subsistence. It shows how even seemingly mundane things, like domestic animals, could be imbued with profound symbolic meaning and tied into vast networks of trade and social status.
Right. It's not just about keeping animals for work or food. There's this whole other layer of value based on origin and ritual.
Absolutely. And it reveals so much about the daily lives, the trade customs, the beliefs of these Bronze Age Canaanites, how prestige could be attached to an imported animal.
It really does reshape how we might think about the connections between, say, Egypt and Canaan back then.
Right.
It wasn't just raw materials moving back and forth.
No, it involved live animals carrying significant cultural and social weight. Even with a small sample size here, the implications are pretty significant for understanding these early urban societies.
So we've gone from these carefully buried donkeys, these kind of ancient time capsules, to the nitty-gritty of isotope analysis and what it reveals about ancient beliefs, trade, and status.
It's a fantastic example of how interconnected ritual and trade were, painting this rich picture of Bronze Age life.
It clearly wasn't just about survival back then. It was about symbols, status, connection, things that maybe still resonate today.
That's a great point.
Which leads to a final thought, perhaps. As you go about your day, think about how we still assign value to objects, maybe experiences, based on where they come from, how rare they are, the effort involved in getting them.
Like designer brands or imported foods or maybe even travel experiences.
Exactly. In what ways do we still take seemingly ordinary things and give them extraordinary meaning? Maybe unconsciously reflecting our own aspirations, economic, social, political.
Much like the people of Gath might have done with their imported Egyptian donkeys.
Right. What else might we be missing if we only look at the surface? What hidden meanings are waiting to be discovered in the everyday things around us?
A lot to think about. It shows the past isn't always as distant as it seems.